Hello and welcome to The Walking Show. This is the first episode, and today we have one of my dear friends, Mr. Apoorv Dave, who has been with me since 2015. We have lived 5 years, 4 to 5 years in college, and we are friends who do not lose touch
Yeah.
despite going
sure.
on different paths, and our paths keep on intersecting every now and then. This time it is for this podcast that I'm starting, and Apoorv Dave has agreed to be the first guest. What's up, Apoorv Dave? How has life been?
First of all, thank you very much for having me, Zaman. I hope that this becomes all the rage very soon. How has life been? Life has been pretty good, I think. Lots of different experiences. I've been able to do some things that I had set out and made up my mind back in my childhood, college days. Some things still to be achieved. So the ambition is still high, and yes, I think all in all, it's a very good feeling. Life has been very nice to me so far.
So what exactly, for our viewers here, what exactly is the ambition that you're talking about, that the goal that you set in college?
Sure.
Can you talk more about that?
Yes, so I think I'll also briefly introduce myself. I'm Apoorv Dave, and of course, Zaman's viewers would know Zaman is from IIT Kharagpur. We were batchmates together, and I'm from Udaipur. Spent my childhood in a boarding school, so have lived outside of home at an early age, and got into college early on. I think when I was probably 16 or 17 years old, I had pretty much made up my mind that I would eventually want to build something of my own. By that I mean build a business of my own. Graduated, started working, worked at companies like Flipkart, followed by Smallcase, worked for about 3 years, and finally did launch my own startup. That's what I have been doing for the last 2 years. So the ambition, when you ask me, that is the ambition even now, to actually build a successful large company. I made one attempt, although I am in the process of winding it down right now, details of which of course I'm sure we'll talk more as we proceed with this podcast. But I'm glad that I gave it a shot. I'm glad of whatever we achieved in that particular 2 years, but the ambition is still high in the sense that what I eventually set out to achieve is still left to be achieved. And
So you are in that state of grateful dissatisfaction that we were talking about yesterday.
Yes, for our viewers, I think Zaman was very recently, just a couple of days back, was telling me about being in this feeling of grateful dissatisfaction, which, I mean, better coming from your own mouth, but just briefly, what my takeaway for that is, because I resonated with it very well, is you should be grateful for what you have in life, but you should also be in a dissatisfied state, because that keeps you ambitious for achieving more and more in life. And yeah, I think that's a very nice statement to live by, Zaman.
Yeah, I believe that is a very good state to constantly be in.
Yes.
Because gratefulness will act as an anchor and will help you slow down in life and cherish the moments, the people, and the experiences that you have achieved, have lived through.
Right.
While the dissatisfaction part would not let your hunger die, and you will have some kind of motive to live by, something to look forward to.
Very true.
So that is why I was thinking about it, that okay, what is my state which I resonate with the most, and rightly said, grateful dissatisfaction is that state.
Yes.
What about late trips? So Apoorv recently came back from a vacation, kind of a weekend getaway on the long weekend that we had on 15th of August, the Indian Independence Day. And I have not yet gotten a download on how that trip was. So how was that trip?
So yes, I mean, as I was saying, right, that because I'm winding down my startup right now, still figuring out what to do next in life, I thought first thing that's very important for me to do is take a break. And a part of that break was planning a trip. So we planned a trip with our friends, 5 of us, went to Ladakh. Very funny story that we started out the trip कि travelers के जैसे घूमेंगे
Right.
कि हम तो travelers है, कोई planning नहीं करेंगे, पहुंच जाएंगे वहाँ पे और go with the flow वाला trip करेंगे.
Yes.
But it ended up being a very very touristy trip where we did all the touristy things. We went only to the tourist spots which were crowded a lot and very traditional means of traveling कि टैक्सी करी, भैया को बोला भैया कहाँ कहाँ घूम सकते हैं यहाँ पे, भैया ने 3 जगह टूरिस्ट स्पॉट्स लेके गए, घुमाया, वैसा किया.
Yes.
But despite that, it was still a very good trip because I think you get to see different places. That's one part of doing a trip, right? When you do a trip with your friends, when you do a trip with people who are close to you, spending time with those people in a different environment.
Right.
You probably might be spending time with such people on a daily basis, hanging out together at their homes or at any bar or pub, things like that. But same set of people in a different environment also leads to a very different line of thinking, conversations, opening up about what's going on in everybody's lives, things like that. So that part of the trip always happens.
Right. It strengthens your bond with the same people even further.
I mean, to be really honest, nowadays I have stopped thinking about whether this bond is going to strengthen more or not because I
Okay.
think the bond is already to a very good extent.
Okay.
I'm not looking for means of how I can strengthen the bond further.
Yeah. We've reached that state with a few folks in our lives that
Yes.
does not matter even if there's a tussle between the two of us, we will be able to sort it
Yes,
out.
yes. I mean-
Ride or die kind of a people.
Yeah, I mean, it's to a point where I don't think like I need to consciously plan something or put in efforts to strengthen the bond because I believe the bond has already reached a very strong level.
Right.
So, my point being that these trips then essentially become more about talking about things, sharing life details, and understanding close people's day-to-day things in a better way, which sometimes somewhere gets overlooked on your daily life, right?
Right.
I mean, for example, even if you have a very close friend, you probably meet that friend, say, once or twice a week, right?
Right.
That close friend. Or even if you are living with somebody. Many a times, small things, very basic details like how are things in their family or how are they thinking about their career or relationships or in general life outlook, often small things get overlooked because it becomes, you get to a point that I meet this person on a daily, weekly basis.
Yeah.
Why do I bother of asking small, tiny details, right?
Right.
If you meet somebody after a long time, you will
catch
ask
up.
all those questions.
Yeah.
Like, how's your family or how's your career going? Are you happy with your job? Are you happy with your work that you are doing? Things like that. But with people that you meet on a very frequent, regular basis, you usually don't. So what helps to drive such conversations is keep the same set of people but change the environment.
Change in environment, yes.
Right? And of course, now that's a very big debate that how good the environment can be.
Okay.
Of course, you can go to lengths in making the environment really good. You can
Right.
travel to more beautiful places, different
Right.
places. But any kind of change, which is of course comforting and not
Yes.
uncomforting, is always good to have such conversations.
Again, so I contradict on this point. Even uncomforting places, you get to see the real side of people that you would not have otherwise. Had it been a very comforting, cush journey and everything being taken care of. That's why treks over trips is what I
True.
Stand
And that's what I
by.
said, right? That we also wanted to travel Ladakh
Right.
like travelers,
Right.
but we ended up traveling like tourists.
tourists.
But although they are different,
Yes.
it's also, I think, Raman, a point that when you travel as tourists, your physical and mental state does not alter much from the day-to-day life that you live.
Right.
So you don't from within the body experience different emotions,
Right.
which is not the case when you are doing a physically extraneous activity like a trek, right?
Yeah.
Or like trek is very physical, but let's say traveling in a new country, for example. Traveling in a new country has some new levels of mental emotions that people usually go through just because of the fact that people around are not speaking the same language that you usually
Right.
see people speaking,
Right,
right?
right, right.
You have to figure out things, the ways in how normal things are done in such places. So those kind of emotions are released or come to surface much better when the environment is more touching you physically or mentally. But as tourists, it's just that okay, you see good sights and you are with good people, so it's a much more calming and relaxing. I'm not saying that the other side is not calming.
No.
It's a different kind of relaxation that you
Right.
achieve from it.
So I have never been to Leh. I have heard that it is a cold desert, is what people say.
Yes.
You come from a land. You come from Rajasthan. You
Yes.
come from a land of kings, land of deserts. Were you able to draw parallels between the warm desert of Rajasthan and the cold desert of Leh? Did you find yourself thinking about it when you were in Leh?
Actually, so first of all, it's a very, very beautiful place. Ladakh is very beautiful. It's a desert, so because I've seen deserts in my life, coming from Rajasthan, I've traveled places
Right.
like Jaisalmer, etc. Also, soil-wise, it's very similar.
Okay.
Right? So I could see the familiarity that the soil in Ladakh looks like a soil which I have seen somewhere else also.
Okay.
It was just becoming difficult for my mind to place that soil on a different terrain because it was a hilly terrain.
Okay.
So Ladakh has mountains, but you won't find any vegetation on those mountains. And because we went in the month of August,
Right.
so it's not even as cold, so there's no snow also. So these are pure barren mountains that you
Right.
see. And yes, it does feel like a desert. Like it settles in.
The dryness is there.
It's really dry, right? So the way your skin feels, the way the wind feels, all of those things do remind you of how a normal desert also feels.
Okay.
But the terrain adds a layer of differentiation to it, I would say.
Cold desert. So you are in jackets, but you are feeling
Seeing the
sand.
barren soil, sand, dryness in the
Right.
air, things like that. And not enough snow because of the time that
Yeah,
we went,
right.
So all of those things, like, yeah, we are genuinely in a desert and literally very, very less vegetation.
Okay.
You can see the mountains in Ladakh are so deprived of vegetation that any mountain that you take a look at, just by looking, you will see that yes, I now understand why so many landslides happen in Ladakh.
It's just a rock.
It's not even a full rock. It's
Okay.
layers of very small sand and small rocks,
Okay.
which is what makes you realize that okay, this is the reason why so many landslides happen in Ladakh, right?
sense.
So until you don't see it physically yourself with your own eyes, it's just like yes, landslides happen in Ladakh, but yeah, you realize it that yes,
Right.
landslides
And
happen.
especially when you came back from Ladakh
Huh.
to Bangalore, you would have felt, because I remember last time you were mentioning that Bangalore has only one factor, which is overpowering all of the other factors.
Weather.
The poor traffic. That it's been taken care of. All of the other down factors are taken care of by this one factor, which is the weather of Bangalore. And after being in Delhi NCR for around 4 weeks, I came to Bangalore last month, and I actually felt that what you were saying was exactly right. I think that is the reason why people in Bangalore are fitter in general, is what I would say, because you have one less reason to not go out for that run. You have one less reason to not work out, because if the weather is harsh, it's harder to wake up in the morning, it's harder to step out, because even before going to the gym, on the way in Gurgaon I was sweating. So I believe weather plays a major role, and that
Yes.
is the primary reason why most of the startup ecosystem, it happens to be in Bangalore.
Because of the weather?
It plays a major role.
Yes.
The company is navigating towards Bangalore.
Probably. Does make a lot of sense, yes. But Bangalore weather is genuinely really good.
Yes.
In all other aspects, Bangalore might have a huge room of improvement.
Yes.
We've been seeing infrastructure and traffic being an issue, crowd being an issue, things like that. But weather really is by far,
Yeah,
to a
it's-
very
it's
good
by
extent,
far.
compensating for so many other
many
aspects
other
which are not
factors.
really good, right?
People are still not navigating away from Bangalore
Yes,
for
yes.
this exact reason,
Yes,
that
yes,
okay,
yes.
at least I feel good even when I'm at home. I
Right.
don't need an AC.
Right,
Apart from those 2-3 months, I believe,
Right.
in in summers.
Right.
And that also has recently started happening. 5 years back, I remember I came to Bangalore and houses did not have ACs because even in the month of May, June, in the peak heat, as
I don't have
this-
an AC even right now.
Oh,
So-
okay.
Because see, it's typically 15 to 20 days of peak heat in a year when you will actually feel the need of having an AC. But yes, I'll add to that this time period is increasing with every year, right? So I think 5 years ago it was probably 0 days. Now we are at 15-20 days,
Okay.
and the pace of increase is also really high.
All right.
So I'm sure that within the next next year we'll need AC for at least 30 to 40 days. So it is increasing.
Global warming is real.
Weather change is real, yes. Climate change is real, for
Yes.
sure.
Let's pivot to the professional life of Apoorv Dave.
Okay.
Right. How it's panned out since college. So you were the rank opener of mechanical engineering at IIT Kharagpur,
Yes.
if
yes,
I'm
I was.
not wrong.
Yes.
And you went to Bansal classes Kota,
Yes.
and then you came to IIT Kharagpur. You were the branch opener of mechanical engineering.
Yes.
And your elder brother also was mechanical,
Yes,
was part of the
mechanical
mechanical
engineer from IIT
engineering
Kharagpur,
department from IIT Kharagpur.
Yes.
Shout out Mr. Arpit Dave. And since then, how has it panned out? If you were to give an introduction of yourself to a professional setup, I believe you would have given a lot of these in
Yes.
the interviews that we all sat together.
Yes.
You in 2019, I sat for those interviews in 2020.
Right.
So yeah, going back in time a bit.
So I think it was. So I'll start from college. I'll
Sure.
cover all the
Sure.
4 years also, because
Perfect.
I think what you do in those 4 years also impact your professional life in some way.
Definitely, 100%.
So yes, I
Was the
got a
branch
good
opener
rank.
of
I got into mechanical engineering IIT Kharagpur. I was happy that
Yes.
I got IIT Kharagpur. First year was pretty much just exploring college, making friends, getting to know people. One really good thing about Kharagpur that you would
Yes.
surely know and agree with is the diversity of people that we get to meet.
Right.
So that's definitely there. First year was purely that. Second year onwards, I started, for no reason to be honest, developing an interest in finance. I don't know
Okay.
why.
Okay.
It was just that I got this clarity early on that probably mechanical core is not something that I want to do. I don't know why again, because probably I didn't really resonate with the ways of teaching
Do you want to
at
sit?
colleges. Yeah, we can sit. And I started developing an interest in finance. At the same time, my elder brother was working on a startup back then, so used to hear startup things in family conversations, things like that.
Okay.
So in general, it spiked an interest. And one first internship that I did during my college was at a VC firm. So
Okay.
I interned with for 2 months at Bloom Ventures in Mumbai.
Okay.
Very chill internship. Just got to hang out with people working in VCs, trying to see them work, how they actually interact with founders, how they evaluate startups, things like that.
Okay.
Of course, we are just 3 17-year-olds, no decision making or anything.
Right.
So even if we are just doing their grunt work, it was more about spending time with those people and seeing how they actually.
So there were other co-interns. You said 3 17-year-olds?
Yes. So again, Kashif
Okay.
and another senior of ours from Kharagpur, Deepak. So
Okay.
there were 3 of us who interned in their Mumbai office.
Okay.
That was a good time. Got to know different startups. Like by got to know, I mean got to know the names of these startups and got to know what basic things like a business model mean, a product means, how products are sold to customers, how distribution is done. Very basic things, right? That was a good experience. Came back to college. Third year, we have the campus-driven internship program where companies come to campus for internships. So sat for that. Very generic things students do. Got an internship at one of the big 4 PwC, and this happened start of the 4th semester, was it? Or fifth?
Right.
Fourth. I mean, start of the 3rd year. This
Third
happens,
year,
right?
yes.
So then, what you end up in a state for people who are not really associating with IIT Kharagpur's lifestyle is that, third year end you have to do an internship. Your internship is sorted at the start of the third year, so you are relieved that okay, now there's
that
not a big
entire
stress.
year.
Yes, I have an internship, so now I
Yeah.
just need to do a good job at my acads
Yeah.
and participate in whatever I like. It can be sports, co-curriculars, things like that. So
Right.
that's what I started doing.
Right.
So playing sports, like I used to play squash back in campus, co-curriculars. We were both part of dramatic society,
Yes.
so did that, right? So yes, I was pretty relieved that okay, internship is sorted, so now I can focus on other things, and that's what I started doing. Then this semester went by. Next semester, one very big event that we have in IIT Kharagpur, which is applicable for people in their third or fourth years, is that there's this post called Vice President.
Right.
I'm just iterating for the viewers that it's the post for Student Council, and the way a person gets appointed to that post is through an elections.
Yeah.
Right. Now, although on paper it is a very kosher, open platform where anybody can contest for that particular post, and whosoever gets elected will
Right.
take up the post. But people from Kharagpur will understand that behind the scenes are very different.
Yeah.
It's a mini version of any country, any democracy's politics. And
Democrats versus Republicans, there will be two candidates.
Yes, so
Internal politics
yes,
happens.
Yes.
and yeah.
So like there are different parties, so different halls will get together, make a association or a party or whatever, pact in Kharagpur's language. So I somehow got involved in that, where I was one of the contesting candidates.
Right.
So the sixth semester went by entirely in that,
Yep.
where it's a whole 3 to 4 month experience, where one key event for the elections is a soapbox, as we call it in Kharagpur, which is a statement of purpose, where both the candidates are facing a panel of people who have questions about their manifesto, about the challenges in Kharagpur, about the issues and what are their plans of dealing with such issues for the students, for admins, for people residing there, and a lot of people come to watch that soapbox also. So you prepare for that 2.5 months for that particular SOP soapbox. And in addition to that, we also have an event called Hall Days during that time. So Hall Days are like a period of 1 month where normally in Kharagpur, boys are not allowed to go to girls' halls and girls are not allowed to go to boys' halls. But during that particular month, every hall gets 1 day, which is known as their hall day. And there are about 18 halls. Yes, we had 18 halls. So 18 such days where whosoever's holiday is up on a particular day, boys or girls, anybody can go and visit. The reason for having a holiday is primarily for the candidate who is contesting for any post in the student gymkhana can promote themselves, can talk about their manifesto, can go and try to understand the issues from the students by visiting each and every room. So that's the reason holidays used to happen. And for people who are contesting in holidays, the objective used to be to go and visit every single room, meet every person who is living in that particular room, try to
Right.
understand their issues, and also introduce themselves that you are, contesting for this particular post. This is how you want to deal with such issues, things like that.
Right.
Essentially, doing your campaigning.
Increase your likability amongst
Correct.
the masses.
Correct. So that's how the entire semester went by. I had a soapbox. Unfortunately, I didn't win the elections. I lost. That also impacted my grades in that particular semester. I performed really
Yes.
bad. It was the worst CG in my entire 4 years of Kharagpur.
Right.
But I had the internship, guys, so I went to Bombay and did my internship then. So Bombay 2 months was just recovering from that particular lost elections. I think we deviated. But yes, coming to professional life.
We'll come back to this, but let's
yes.
continue.
Then came back, final year placements, first job, campus placement at Flipkart. I was in a business development role. TV बेचता था मैं Flipkart में, television team में था. तो we used to purchase televisions from brands like LG, Samsung, Xiaomi, and then sell it on Flipkart. So it was a proper fish market kind of a category scene.
Okay.
कि ये 5,000 का हो गया, इतना बिक गया, इसको 4,000 का कर दो, इसमें 500 का डिस्काउंट लगा दो, इसको 1,000 बढ़ा दो, इसका स्टॉक खत्म हो गया, like that environment.
Right.
Typically this kind of environment, whenever there is a sale ongoing at Flipkart,
BBD.
BBD is the biggest sale of the year.
Okay.
But at Flipkart, we used to have sales, like this is how our induction was done at Flipkart, that people will tell that most of the work is only during festive time or sale seasons. And you will think to yourself that okay, sale seasons would probably happen what 5, 7, 8, 10 times a year. Cool. At Flipkart, we legit used to have some kind of a sale in every 5 days. हर 5 दिन में कोई सेल.
Okay.
1st to 3rd of the month payday sale. सबकी सैलरी आई है, सेल चला दो.
Oh.
14 से 15 फिर मिड डे सेल, कुछ मिड मंथ सेल कुछ चला दो. तो हर दूसरे महीने में कोई ना कोई त्योहार आ जाता था, कभी इंडिपेंडेंस डे, कभी उगादी, कभी ये. सो एवरी 7 to 10 days you definitely have a sale. So if it is a BAU is business as usual day, which is not a non-sale day. You are preparing for a sale upcoming, and on the sale day, of course, you are in the sale. So that's the most chaotic time. And then of course you have BBD, which is the biggest sale of the year. So it was a proper business sales role, which I did for a year. I liked it because extremely high momentum role.
Okay.
Extremely high momentum.
Go.
I mean, go. You have calls incoming, so many stakeholders. You're dealing with brands, you're dealing with people inside, you're dealing with marketing teams, you're dealing with your managers, you're dealing with other categories, you're having your own sales targets to chase, things like that. Did that for a year. Pandemic happened.
Okay.
Pandemic happened, e-commerce stopped, delivery stopped. We actually got into a period where we had no work at all.
Okay.
So at our company, we started doing things like, okay, we'll take up some projects on how to improve efficiency of logistics, things like that. Because deliveries were not happening. This was the first lockdown that I'm talking about, April 2020.
Right.
So then it became a little boring. And I was anyway thinking of making a switch. That was just the inflection point. Started applying and got into a product role at Small Case.
Okay.
Small Case is again founded by Kharagpur seniors. I really liked the idea. I wanted to get into fintech and product both. So the business model excited me, and when I spoke to people working at Small Case, I really liked the team. So one thing that I've always paid a lot of importance to is be very cautious and be very careful about the kind of people that you spend time with, because more than the kind of work that you are doing, if you have the right people surrounded around you, be it work or personal life, it matters much more in your personal growth as well.
Definitely.
And that way Small Case felt like a really good place because it had really good people. Got into Small Case, really good 2 years, learned a lot about capital markets.
What does capital market mean for our audience?
So capital markets is where like BSE, NSE are stock exchanges where people can go and invest into different asset classes. So any asset class, be it gold or mutual fund or bond or FD or stocks, things like that, is typically
part of the bigger umbrella.
Investing. And capital markets specifically talks about these slightly riskier asset classes, which will include mutual funds also, I believe, to some extent. I'm not quoting that this is the right dictionary definition, but mutual funds and stocks, equity. Small Case is one such asset class. So Small Case is a basket of stocks and ETFs where people can invest, right? So worked there, had a great time at Small Case, learned so many things, grew very well in my career as well. But as I said, right, that back at the age of 16, 17, had made up my mind कि कुछ खुद का करना है.
Right.
And that's when I started taking out time on the weekends to explore how do I figure out a problem statement and how can I work towards solving a problem statement, right? So did that. Cutting short, after 2 years moved out of Small Case and co-founded Creditail. At Creditail, the
Creditail.
It's not the best name, not very fond of, but it's a mixture of credit for retail. So Creditail.
Makes sense.
Right? That's how we came up with this. The idea sparked from my past experience at Flipkart, where, as I said, right, we used to purchase inventory from brands like LG, Samsung. And one challenge for Flipkart used to be that once LG or Samsung or whichever brand has delivered the products, Flipkart has to pay the brand. Right? Now, the payment terms used to typically be on a credit period basis, whereas Flipkart will say that, okay, you deliver, we'll pay you after 30 days of delivery, because that helps our working capital.
Right.
Now, the longer we are able to negotiate, the better for our working capital. One project that I worked on during my time at Flipkart was that we partnered with a bank called HSBC Bank. And the deal was that as soon as the brands deliver the products, HSBC will pay these brands on behalf of Flipkart on the day of delivery itself, right? So for the brands, they get paid early. Now, because they're getting paid early, HSBC would deduct anywhere between 1 to 2%, whatever is the commercial arrangement. And for Flipkart can pay back to HSBC after 80 or 90 days.
80 or 90 day cycle. Okay.
So it's classic invoice discounting or supply chain financing, as you call it. And that's what I thought to myself, that while large companies like Flipkart, Amazon have access to such institutional lenders, small retailers would probably also have such a working capital requirement.
Right.
And are banks, or are they getting catered by any lender as such right now? So with this idea, we started exploring different categories, talked to a lot of categories, tried to understand the supply chain, narrowed down on FMCG as one category where we want to build something. Because we realized FMCG is the category where the end retailer is the smallest mom and pop kirana store.
Right.
या सुपरमार्केट फिर भी बड़ा हो गया, किराना स्टोर इज द स्मॉलेस्ट पर्सन
who needs
जिसका कोई
credit.
ज़्यादा डिजिटल फुटप्रिंट भी नहीं है, खरीदने बेचने का उसका भी काम है. ही परचेजेस इन्वेंट्री एट 10 रुपीज़, सेल्स इट एट 15 रुपीज़, इसी धंधे में है वो भी.
Right.
डिजिटल फुटप्रिंट नहीं है, बैंक्स वगैरह का ज़्यादा एक्सेस है नहीं, तो उसको ज़्यादा लोग क्रेडिट
देंगे नहीं.
राइट. पीपल हु थिंक कि पेटीएम भारत पे आर गिविंग क्रेडिट, पेटीएम भारत पे आर गिविंग बिजनेस लोन्स टू देम. राइट. सो वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट फॉर अस एज इंडिविजुअल्स, जैसे पर्सनल लोन होता है एक टाइप का लोन, और एक होता है होम लोन और ऑटो लोन. राइट. आपको अगर घर खरीदना है तो आप पर्सनल लोन लेके घर नहीं खरीद, बिकॉज होम लोन इज मच चीपर.
Yes.
यू हैव अ कोलैटरल टू बैक इट.
Yes.
सिमिलरली उस दुकानदार के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से अगर आप सोचोगे, पर्सनल लोन लेगा वो फॉर यूज़ केसेस लाइक बेटी की शादी करानी है, या फिर कोरोना के टाइम पे बिजनेस सही नहीं चल रहा है, या फिर बिजनेस एक्सपैंड करना है, नई दुकान डालनी है. बट इस सप्लायर को पेमेंट करने के लिए वो बिजनेस लोन नहीं लेगा पेटीएम भारत.
So what were the two things that we talked about? Business loan and working capital credit.
Right. So it's more secured loan and unsecured loans.
Okay.
Right. So secured loans is where you have some asset to secure the loan. For example, in a car loan or in a home loan, you have the asset, which is the home or the car itself. Right. Unsecured is where you don't have any asset. You are just judging the credit worthiness of the particular borrower and giving him credit based on that.
You're not taking any collateral in exchange.
You're not taking any collateral. So in a personal loan, you are just taking a bet based on whatever parameters that you look at as a lender,
Right.
and whatever capabilities you've built around collecting that money back from that particular borrower. Based on that, you will give the person some amount of loan, and then the person will repay you back.
So
right?
what these brands like BharatPe, PhonePe are doing
is an unsecured loan for these
unsecured
retailers,
loan
right?
at 12%.
So it's akin, not at 12%.
Okay.
So that's the point, that if the loan is unsecured, the lender is taking more risk, right?
Right. So
Because
the percentage is
so
higher.
the interest rate is higher,
Right.
and that's the exact reason why you would not take an unsecured loan for purchasing an asset. You
Correct.
would not take a personal loan for purchasing a car.
Right.
Right. Similarly, a retailer would not take an unsecured loan from a player like Paytm or BharatPe for purchasing stock from their distributors.
Makes sense.
Right? And this is what we wanted to solve. So we thought that we can provide them credit at a cheaper cost for their working capital requirements, which means for their payments to distributors. And that's where we realized that today that particular use case is being solved for these retailers only by the distributor. The distributor who is supplying them Cadbury products or ITC products or HUL products is the one who is providing them credit.
Right.
So yes, that's the insight that we started working on. We built a SaaS offering for these FMCG distributors to enable their collections and streamline reconciliation. On top of that, partnered with lenders to power credit offerings for these retailers. We were able to raise a seed round, use the capital, scale the business to a good extent. Long story short, started running into unit economics challenges because the cost at which we were borrowing was really high in the market because of macro factors, a lot of things. RBI cracking down on lending fintechs, making it difficult for new fintechs to enter the lending space and make it more regulated space in general, where lenders should be more careful, and more scrutinized way of lending was being promoted by RBI. And for us, it meant higher cost of capital, lower interest coming from the market, which means unit economics not making sense. We were not seeing a long-term path towards sustainably improving our unit economics. And that's when we decided, after trying out multiple pivots, that it's better to return so much capital that we've raised rather than burn it all.
What was the amount, if you can give a ballpark?
So our seed round was of about 2.5 million, which is about 20 CR.
20 CR.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that was the seed round that we did.
And how was it? I have a few questions. How was it dealing with VCs? Because I believe you would have gone to 50 VCs, if not more.
Yes, easily. I think
And
100 probably.
100 probably. Okay. And how has your experience in VC? You did an intern in Bloom Ventures. Helped you or given you a broader perspective of what the other side of the table was asking for? What were they looking for?
Yeah, I don't think. My experience was at a very early stage, so I don't think that experience helped or like gave me a lot of early understanding of what to expect and how those conversations will be.
Right.
Probably at a later stage, if you intern at a VC, you'll probably get better exposure. But this, again, personally for me, it was not that big because when I did the internship, I was not in that close action at a VC also. But yes, as a founder, I spoke to a lot of VCs and faced so many rejections, a lot of rejections. But yes, I'm sorry. What was the question?
How like what were the key points that you remembered before going to a VC, that okay, I know from my VC experience this is a ballpark in which what they are looking for. How do I pitch myself in a way so that I can get their money, get their trust and then their money?
See, I won't get into the details of
Obviously.
the structured things
Yes.
like you need the market size, market share,
Yes,
things like that.
yes.
Those are like very easily available resources everybody understands. I think my 2 cents would be that at early stages, right, especially at seed stages, investment decisions are primarily based on 2 things. One is the rational side of things, right? Whether the business makes sense or not, whether the projection numbers add up or not, whether there is logical sense or logical problem solving that you are building or not, things like
Right.
that. And then the second side of it is more emotion driven, for a lack of a better word, which is more about seeing how much conviction does the founder have in the problem. And when I say how much conviction does the founder have in the problem, what I am trying to say is that a VC will invest only when they also build their own conviction, right? Now, conviction can be built rationally through data, numbers, etc. Of course, that has to be done. That's
Has
a
to be
must
done, yeah.
have. But many a times, even if all the rational checkpoints are cleared, you still probably won't be able to build conviction for somebody else, right? And that is where founder's own conviction comes into the picture. So your conviction has to be so strong that it begs the other person who is listening to you question that why am I not convinced about this particular business. So early stage, seed stage is primarily about building that conviction and having that delusional optimism about being able to solve that problem.
Right. So just to add to that, I was recently reading this line that seed stage, early stage funding is about EQ and not about IQ. Because numbers might not be there. Numbers might be very poor. So you have to take a bet on the founder and their conviction.
Right.
When you are investing in early stage
Correct.
or seed stage.
Correct.
When we go to later stages, obviously there are numbers. So
Right.
EQ takes the back seat and
Right.
the numbers take the front seat.
Right.
But yeah, in a nutshell, you have to
Correct.
take the bet on the founder.
Correct. I mean, very on point, and that's what VCs do also.
Right.
Seed stage, pre-seed stage is just taking a bet on the team.
Right.
On the team of founders. Of course, the rational part of the business model, etc., is there.
It's
But
there.
everybody understands that it's also very fragile at that point, right?
it is very
It will
malleable.
change.
Yes.
A lot of learnings will come. Business model will change. The problem statement also might change. The product might entirely change, right? So many
Right.
such stories also.
Yes.
So it's more about the conviction of the founding team, which matters. So yes, I think that is
And
important.
again, so a very important question, a very personal question, that we know that hindsight is always 2020. Now, if you look at the hindsight 2 years back when you have not started Creditail, what would you have done differently so that people do not make the same mistakes? I'm pretty sure you would have made a few mistakes,
Of course.
and of maybe not utilizing your strengths, maybe of and other mistakes, whatever. So what would you have done differently is my question.
Honestly, I'm still pondering on this. I myself have not been able to pinpoint it to a set of things that
Right.
okay, these things could have been avoided because it's still very recent and
Right.
fresh. But even after that, if I have to say something, I think many a times I personally went into this loop of over analyzing things and thinking of doing something or not doing something, taking a lot of time,
Okay.
right? So that is one thing that should definitely be avoided, right?
Fail quickly.
At early stages, yes, like fail quick, but it also needs to be done keeping in mind the long-term vision also, right? For example, if I take my own case, right, the cost of capital and the interest rate coming from the market not tallying is a
Clear sign.
sign which we could have probably come to a realization a little earlier also.
Right.
So it's two sides of a coin, to be honest. I also haven't been able to, make a strong opinion on this yet. But to build great things, you need delusional optimism. You definitely need it,
Right.
That, okay, we'll figure it out, right? In the startup ecosystem, I see a lot of tweets nowadays. It's called as Delulu, which is very important for a founder to have,
Okay.
right? But Delulu often also blurs the line between reality and illusion, right? So there's a very fine line between what is realistically achievable and what is delusionally optimism that your brain is telling yourself that okay, we'll achieve this.
Yeah.
So having a clear embarkation of that particular line in your mind is also really important.
But if you have that clear embarkation, you cannot be purely delusional.
Innovative, yes. you
Purely
cannot be.
delusional.
Yes.
You cannot be on both sides. That you have, what is it? Overtly optimistic
Delusion.
delusion.
Delusionally optimistic.
Delusionally optimistic, and have that line. I think
Right.
those two things cannot coexist.
And these don't have to coexist, but you should have the ability to switch your mind between these.
Or maybe a team with two co-founders in which one is delusionally optimistic and other knows where the line is.
No, it's not possible. You don't need a team where any of your founding member is pessimistic. You don't need it.
Okay.
Because if you have even a single person who is pessimistic in your founding team, you will not be able to build anything.
It will bring
Nothing
down.
will build.
Okay.
See, pessimism is easy. ये नहीं हो सकता है, इसमें 100 कमियां कोई भी निकाल देगा.
Right. Right.
If you have even a single person with this mindset, you will not be able to build any big thing. कुछ बना ही नहीं पाओगे आप.
Right.
You don't need that. So what I was saying is that you should learn to build the capability of switching your mind कि इस point पे we need to be optimistic about what we are building, but whenever needed you should be able to switch, take a step back and be able to realize where the reality is going far away from you now.
Be able to zoom in, zoom out.
Yes, that's very important. And
Right.
the importance of this grows as your business also grows. So
Okay. We have talked about the learnings, sort of what did not went well. Now let us talk about what went well. In the past 2 years, in the conversations that we have had recently, you said that after running a company for 2 years, growing it to a 30-employee company at a time, and I don't need an MBA anymore. Right. So
that's what I like to believe. Yes.
Definitely, that's a very that's not something that I've heard from a lot of people.
Right.
Because that comes from a place of satisfaction as well.
Yeah.
That okay, I have taken away immense learnings from this experience.
Yeah.
I would like you to share that.
Again, nothing against people who go for MBA. I just feel that in my life, having done a startup for about 2 years, managing a team, having a business, raising capital, networking with so many external stakeholders, right from customers to investors to building a team, things like that. I believe that was my MBA. That was the most practically plausible MBA I could have done in my life. Yes, I understand that that MBA was too much depth in a particular domain, whereas routine MBAs are more broader in their curriculum.
Right.
So, in that sense, I think this is authenticity.
Yes, this is authenticity.
But yes, to that sense, I think that was my MBA because I actually was in the center of running a business, and yeah, I mean, I don't see a point of considering MBA even for a second now, because what will I learn from an MBA? I know that to be a founder, you have to learn how to go into the depth of any particular domain that you are building, right? I remember that back when I was in college, when I developed an interest in finance, I appeared and I gave this exam of CFA, level 1, right? And before deciding and making up my mind, I asked a lot of people about guidance, seniors, etc.
Right.
Because there were 2 exams, CFA and FRM, which should you go for? And that's when somebody told me this analogy that CFA is breadth, right? It's like digging a 1-inch hole, but on a much larger surface area, versus FRM is like a 0.2-inch hole, or 0.2-inch surface area, but 1 kilometer deep, right? So it's very deep. So you decide what you want to do. Do you want like to cover the breadth of finance, or do you want to go deep into risk?
Do you want to be a generalist or
right? And to be a founder, you need that depth, right? You cannot have breadth. Breadth is a domain expertise for VCs. That's where they will understand.
Right.
If you go for a routine MBA, you'll understand breadth about so many different topics that you will have studied throughout your curriculum.
Right.
But if you're building something, right? If you're building something in the payment space, in the lending space, in whatever space, you need to go into extreme depths. The more deep and the more deeper your understanding about that particular domain, the better you'll be able to do. So that's the difference as per me between MBA and having your own startup.
right?
I think I've done the depth part. I don't really feel the need of breadth, because I think whatever next I'll do, I will equip myself with all the things needed to go again in the depth of that particular domain. So
Right. What about the network aspect of an MBA? Let's talk about network in general, right? Now that we are just moving away from MBA, let's talk about network in terms of MBA, because I believe MBA colleges, one of the key elements that they provide value in is a good network, a good network of individuals who will go on to become executives
right.
in different spaces, VC, IB, PE, and other companies.
Right.
So, what do you think? Would you miss that if you are not going for an MBA?
I wouldn't say I would miss that. I think, of course, the MBA opens up a lot of room for networking, and networking is really important in life. But I don't think MBA is the only way to do networking also.
Right.
Like networking can be done without MBA also.
Right.
I mean, we've built a good network just by spending 4-5 years at IIT Kharagpur also.
Definitely,
right?
100%.
And you can spend networking wherever you are, while being in any ecosystem, be it startup ecosystem, be it in a corporate job. I'm sure that the kind of network will vary from where you are.
Yeah.
But I don't think that you can't do networking if you don't go for an MBA.
Right.
It will be a different kind of networking, and I think as long as it's networking, it should be good.
Yeah.
So-
The biggest takeaway, one of my key takeaways from IIT Kharagpur was that I have a huge valuable network
Of course, yes.
spread across
Yeah.
not only India but across the world.
Yes, definitely.
So that is something. Talking about network, the second point that I want to point out or discuss is, while you contested for the vice president position, you were known by every single student on campus because there are only 2 people contesting. And everyone knows who are those 2 people contesting for the vice president election.
Yeah.
It happens once a year. It is it is campaigned everywhere at holidays. There are photos,
Social media
platforms
yes,
everywhere. So have you been able to utilize that fact that okay, Apoorv Dave is a name that everyone knows? A lot of people have interacted with personally as well. Maybe not that deeply, but they have built a connection, a touch point with you back in college. Were you able to utilize that fact in your, let's say, startup journey or in general from the time that you have been in Bangalore?
I think I could have done a lot better, honestly. Because I think essentially what you're trying to ask is, have I been able to leverage my past experiences for building a good personal brand?
Yes.
I think I could have done a lot better, very honestly. Elections and whatever network I was able to build through elections was a byproduct of me being at the right place at the right time where I got the opportunity.
Yes.
Right?
Being capable as well. Being a capable candidate as well.
But post that, it would have required me to put in efforts from my end to leverage that and build a brand for myself around it, which I could have done better. Still trying to. I think probably I will in the coming months, years. But yeah, short answer, I think I could have done much better. Why I am saying I could have done better and not that it does not exist at all, because when I talk to people, of course I bring it up, and when I talk to people, of course this helps me drive conversations and find familiarity, similarities.
Common points
that definitely happens, right? But only when it's on like a one-on-one or in a discussion. But other than that, I think I could have done better, and I think I'll try doing it now. So I think, where I always used to get into this thought process in my own mind is that, say you do something in your life, right? Big, small, whatever, right? Whatever you have done is probably big for a good cohort of people, small for a good cohort of people, right? When it comes to sharing your achievements or even sharing your failures, right? Because sharing failures is also really important. People and other than about the person who's faced the failure, it's helpful for people, right?
Definitely.
Because people can learn from your failures.
Others' mistakes as well.
Others' mistakes, right? But that's the thing. The way I have crystallized it is that, when you spend time getting to know something, right? The more you learn about something, the more you realize that how little you know about that particular thing. Right? And if it turns into a successful event for you, let's say, right? Many a times it starts fueling arrogance. If it becomes a setback in your life, then you start fearing exposure.
Okay.
And in both the cases, right, arrogance fueled by success is not the best state to share things.
Right.
And fearing exposure because of a setback is also not the best state to share things. The best state in those times is to be humble. So humility is a sign of wisdom in such times.
Okay.
That is one thing that I am trying to work upon. That irrespective of whether it be a success or a setback, you need to be humble when it comes to sharing things. And if you are able to maintain that mindset is when you will be able to share things better, which will help other people better, and you'll probably yourself learn from it also better.
I think that was profound, and it'll take some time for me to think. I'll probably have a early morning chai session talking about this last 1 minute for an hour, who knows. And a good point to...
It's happened with me, which is how I crystallized it to this. That if I feel that I've made something, I've made it somewhere, I've done something good in a particular field,
Right.
I have been fueled by arrogance with that success.
Okay.
If I face a setback, I
You
have
have been-
been fearing exposure because of that setback. And in both those states, I didn't share anything
Okay.
because these are not the right states to share things in. Now, the problem is not with the success or the setback. The problem is with the mindset. Be it a success or a setback, the mindset should be of humility to share things for the betterment of people and for your own betterment. There's no shame in that.
Yep, definitely. Talking of betterment,
Let's
what have
start
you
walking.
been doing physically?
Uh,
Because I believe you are the fittest that I've ever seen as of now at 27-year-old.
Yes, thank you. I think I actually never paid attention to my fitness ever, physical fitness. And I started probably close to a year now. A year of starting to trying to be more physically active in the sense of working out or playing a sport or anything
Right.
like that. And about 6 months of actually paying attention to what I eat also.
Okay.
Still a long way to go. But yeah, I feel really good. I feel much more energetic all throughout the day. I believe I'm in better shape. I've lost about 10 kgs in a year now.
Oh.
So I think